morning and welcome to the fourth episode of the Digital Skills Talks, a series of online events that are organized by the Digital Skills and Jobs platform. And the Digital Skills Talks dive into some of the most pressing topics and trends in technology. And each month, we invite key policymakers and leading experts in the area of digital skills and jobs for a 30-minute sharp interview, live streamed on Facebook and via the Digital Skills EU Facebook channel. So far, we've explored topics like AI, cybersecurity and data, and everything through the prism of digital skills. And today's episode is dedicated to the topic of virtual worlds, how to navigate in them. What are the skills we have to acquire to keep up with the times, as the EU is headed towards a smarter and more connected world by 2030. The internet is really changing fast, and as real and digital lives are blending into one another, what are really the efforts that the European Union is focused on when it comes to ensuring safety, fairness, and a beneficial impact on European citizens and businesses? And how do we figure out what skills are going to be in demand? How do we sail through these uncharted waters? Today, I'm beyond the moon to be joined by two high-level experts in the field, Rehana Schwinninger-Ladak, which is head of unit for interactive technologies and the digital skills Directorate for Communications, Networks, Content and Technology at the European Commission, and Michael Barngrover, managing director at XR for Europe, apologies. And now I won't take any more time away from this exciting topic. So I want to say good morning to our guests and let's dive straight in. So Rehana, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's a delight to have you here. Now, the European Commission adopted recently a strategy on Web 0.4 and virtual worlds, with the aim to steer the next technological transition forward and ensure an open, secure, trustworthy, fair, and inclusive digital environment for European citizens, businesses, and public administrations. Could you tell us a bit more? Can you share your thoughts?
Good morning, Galina and Michael, and really a very warm welcome to all of you from sunny but super cold Luxembourg. It's very nice, but I'm really waiting for the weather, to warm up. So I think, Galina, you've said it. You gave a very good introduction about what the strategy is. So the Commission adopted a strategy which is called EU Initiative on Web 4 and Virtual Worlds last year. And the strategy looks at a long-term perspective, Web 4, of which virtual worlds are an important component. So beyond tech hypes, it is about a wider, deeper, more fundamental technological transition, which is going to allow the seamless connection between people and machine, with seamless, continuous loops and feedbacks. And it will bring more immersion. And this will deeply impact, the way we interact, we acquire new skills, the way we collaborate, we design, we produce, and really how we work. And in the strategy, what we say basically is that this technological transition, which is an important one, a key one, it will bring huge opportunities as well as risks. So let's look at both and develop actions to benefit from these opportunities while addressing the risks. And the strategy is anchored in the idea that these developments must reflect EU values and principles and respect EU legislation, as you say, to ensure that people and businesses are safe, confident, and empowered, and that they have all the skills and the tools needed so that they can develop and make use of virtual worlds. And the strategy is also anchored in an industrial policy context. So one of its key ambitions is also to support and nurture an environment for European industries. And what we want is really that our European businesses can develop world-leading applications, that our SMEs, startups can grow, and that they stay in the EU. So it is very much about this industrial ambition that we have. Now, this obviously means that digital skills are at the core of this endeavor for citizens and for businesses. And the strategy is structured around 4 pillars and 10 actions. And the first pillar is about skills. So by doing so and by setting skills as our very first starting pillar, we wanted to underline that empowerment of people and of businesses is going to happen through skills, awareness, literacy, and this is central to the development of virtual worlds. And what we see is that advanced digital skills are really crucial, be it in the core technologies such as augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality, but also in all the technologies, in all the enabling technology you mentioned earlier. You mentioned data, AI, cybersecurity. All these are also very important part, because virtual world is not just one technology. It's really about the integration of technologies. And that is why it's important that we will have specialists, but also people who know how to use these different technologies. And because we are also speaking about virtual worlds, we will also need creative skills. So it's a combination of this tech and creative skills to make sure that either we have hyper-realistic virtual worlds or fancy whatever, but this is an important part. So the actions that we are developing, and which are in our strategy, they will address this need of supporting more advanced specialists. And through our program, the Digital Europe program, we are going to call for bachelors, masters in virtual worlds. But our ambition is also to really support Virtual Worlds Academy. So we are exploring this because I think there is also a need to bring, like we did for the Cybersecurity Skills Academy, to bring all the different strands of work under one umbrella so that we can give, the needed push and obviously importance that is needed. So this is really in a nutshell, what the strategy is about and how advanced digital skills are really a core element of this endeavor.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for this answer. And we see also that this is reinforcing the pillars of the digital decade and getting to 80% of European citizens with basic digital skills and 20 million ICT experts by 2030. And it's really fascinating to hear how big of a topic this actually is, and combining all these other technologies. Michael, let me turn the microphone to you. And first of all, welcome. It's great to have you on board. So XR for Europe is a pan-European association which is dedicated to uniting professionals in extended reality. Organizations and also initiatives throughout the continent. And I know that XR for Europe traces its roots all the way back to 2018 to the XR for All project, right? That ran from December 2018 to August 21, received support from the European Commission's Horizon 2020 program. And since then, it's been carrying out several EU initiatives and EU-funded projects. Actually, you've done a lot. So can you tell us a bit more on what you've done to improve basic and advanced digital skills around Europe, which links to what Rehana was just saying about the need to boost both advanced digital skills and also, of course, basic. So what specific areas are you focusing on at the moment?
I mean, we engage in most importantly, recognizing what people are doing in the space, because XR, particularly when we're talking about headsets, and these head-mounted displays, there's a lot of opaqueness in what are people really talking about, what are they really making, what are the experiences that maybe they're concerned about or they're excited about. So a lot of what XR for Europe does is to identify what people around the continent are doing, particularly through our full members. So we have a range of types of institutions and organizations and individuals who are members, but kind of the core of our membership are the national and regional associations, who themselves represent hundreds or sometimes thousands, depending on the market, actors who are students and researchers, they're SMEs and startups, and oftentimes they're doing really amazing things that people just in the next country don't realize, and they feel sometimes in isolation and a silo, and that really does kind of hinder the broader development of the European ecosystem, because knowledge is just not as visible, and that's a challenge because of language, because of the cultural distinctions and market distinctions. It's just one of those elements that XR for Europe exists, and we're not the only organization working in various ways to do this. But it's to draw attention to what people are doing. So in the context of skills, obviously what a lot of people are doing are they're improving their skills, trying to find ways to improve it faster. So they're looking to network and connect and communicate. They're looking to collaborate. So we do matchmaking for many of our organizations when we know what they're looking for or what it is that they're a specialist in. We have become increasingly in the time in which I've been in the role, a platform for thought leadership. And so thought leadership often engages things, particularly around ethics, because core and very adjacent to this is XR for Europe's participation in the XR for Human project, which is a current Horizon Europe project that's we're just finishing our 18th month. So we're really deep into the work of this project, which is to create frameworks that encourage and support developers in Europe to embody European values and ethics into the work that they do. So oftentimes, like the skill development is from a technical nature with a particular end goal, but increasingly that skill development has a non-technical element, which is actually very essential to it. And that's increasingly what we do as well through people talking about what they're doing and the challenges. So one of the things that came up is for the XR for Human, a core deliverable is a code of conduct specifically for developers. And of course, it needs to be, our role is stakeholder engagement. So it's making sure that the researchers who are developing this are able to engage not just with people in the public policy space or in the user space, but also with the developers, because they're the ones who have to really buy in and believe in this to change something about their practice. But a fundamental question that came up, which is, when does a code of conduct come into play? When would the developer who's developed a dozen applications ask themselves, how do I approach this situation ethically? And that just came up through bringing together several stakeholders from different countries who are in the SME space. And so we also do work supporting startups in Europe through partnerships with entities like Startup Wise Guys, and we have an Impulse program that combines the efforts of many of the larger XR events in Europe, like VR Days and Laval Virtual and Stereopsia. So bringing these startup people together, it wasn't the intent, but it was a beautiful serendipitous output to ask them, when would a code of conduct come into play for you as a when we're approached with a project? For example, just that's when it is. It's not in development, it's prior to development. But it was identifying that the developer isn't creative and developmental process. It's also the producer. It's also the business developer. It's multiple people, multiple stakeholders in that process. So that's an example of what we're kind of tangibly contributing to the development of digital skills and advanced skills in Europe. It's bringing people together to talk about how they work and where their challenges are, and what are their best practices, and then contributing that to discussions and projects like XR for Human, and also Openverse has some similar objectives in the standard space.
Yeah. So it's not just collaborative processes and bringing people from different backgrounds together, but I also hear it's a bit more co-creation, even like you put them together so that they can co-create ideas, and then something sustainable may come out from society. And if you have to wrap up with one line, Michael, and if you have to explain what is the objective of this XR for Europe forum, if you have to say one sentence, can you give us one sentence? Because I know that you need to leave sharp soon.
Yeah. So the XR for Human forum, because the forum exists specifically to engage stakeholders with the researchers there. I guess that's a good question. In one sentence, is to provide a space for critical and challenging discussion to happen with people who are experts in ethics, but are not necessarily experts in technical development of XR. It's meant to be a space for real challenging discussion. That's his point.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And Rehana, let me pass the ball back to you for a bit, because I know that from February to April 2023, the Commission held a citizens panel. And maybe not a lot of European citizens know about it, but that citizen panel selected 150 Europeans to make recommendations based on their expectations of virtual worlds. And how they can be fair, safe, beneficial for the future, how they can sustain our core ethical EU values. 1 year later, can you tell us what have been the results? What can we expect?
Yeah, thanks, Galina. So first of all, what are this European Citizens Panel? So the Conference of Europe, which took place like 2 years ago, one of the big recommendations of this Conference of Europe was how do we bring citizens closer to decision and policy making at European level, and how do we really engage them in a more interactive, dynamic way. And what the citizens then, what they recommended was to have these kind of panels, more widely. So a year and a half ago, well, actually 2 years ago, our colleagues in charge, of this European Citizens Panel, they approached us and they said, look, would you like to try a European Citizens Panel in this area? And we were like, oops, it's a very, very, untangible topic for citizens, but it's worth a try. Let's see what, citizens, some of whom may not have a clue about virtual worlds, what they have to say. So we engaged, very eagerly in it, and it was a fantastic exercise. So as you said, we had 150 citizens randomly selected, representing the wide diversity out there in terms of education, socioeconomic backgrounds, gender balance, geographic, digital skills as well. So we had it's not a stereotype, but actually we had truck drivers, we had plumbers, we had philosophers, we had engineers, we had teachers. So you had a diversity of people who usually would not talk about this topic, and even less, have a discussion. So we brought them together over 3 weekends to have a deep dive on this topic. About what are virtual worlds, what does it mean, what is important to them. And what they did was a deliberation. So together they worked and they came up together as a consensus, to come up with a list of 8 values and principles and 23 recommendations. So if you search for it, it is on the net, and it is for policymakers, European, national, regional, but it is also for the industry. So Michael, I think also for the code of conduct, it's worth seeing what, largely what citizens are saying. And in those recommendations, what they say basically, it's what matters to them, what going forward in terms of development, what should be reflected. So I have it here. I hope you can see it with my background. This is what it looks like. No, the background doesn't show it, so it's fine. So the value. So we have principle 5 is about education and literacy. Obviously, it includes skills. So it's about recognizing and working on the need to raise awareness and empower people with skills on how to use virtual worlds. And when you look at the recommendation, there are 3 of them which are directly pertaining to skills. It's about training for work in virtual worlds. It's about teacher training. It's really important. So what citizens say is that to be able to have empowered future citizens, we need to start working now. We need to make sure that our teachers know what virtual worlds are and they have the right skills and digital skills so that they can then, educate students so that later on they will be able to use it. And one of the third recommendation is about how do we have more easily accessible information about all digital tools. So basically what citizens are saying to us is we want to know more, we want to be able to use, and for that we need to be empowered with information and with skills. So these recommendations guided the actions that I mentioned earlier. And not only these, but you have a lot of the actions, they stem directly from the recommendations of the citizens. So all the actions on skills have been influenced. They have, they have the citizens' recommendation in mind. And there is other recommendations. For instance, citizens were very worried about the impact of health. When they are in virtual worlds, what is going to be the impact on health? So what we did is to launch, this strand of work we were going to call a study, which starts the work, so that we go back to them saying, look, these are a number of actions where we heard you, and it is absolutely fundamental that as we move ahead, you have more tools, more skills, more knowledge to be able to engage in virtual worlds. So it's in a nutshell what the exercise was about, very rich, very diverse, very nuanced, but at the same time going at the heart of the challenges of virtual world and giving very specific recommendations to policymakers, but also to industry in the future developments.
So in a way, it encompassed the whole European continent and all the different perspectives that one could get. And really, it sounds like, I know I'm a professional that works in digital skills, and I know very little about virtual worlds. I've only been finding out about this in the last 5 years. I can only imagine how that may seem to somebody who's completely outside of the sector. And it's fascinating that these people were given a chance to co-create and to also to give their opinions, so that these opinions were actually reflected and thought upon, and then may transform potentially soon into policy and into more documents and more reports and more ways to understand how digitalized and how European we can be. Michael, do we need to let you go, or can you answer one more question about the XR for Human project?
Yeah.
Now, based on what Rehana was saying, do you think that would bring good results? Do you think that you can link the project to the same deliverables, to the same outputs? It sounds like it's grounded in the same things, right?
It's grounded, and it very much informs. We definitely review the citizens panel both as XR for Europe and then within the projects, because it is very rare to get that number and diversity of respondents, particularly over time. And I think that's a critical element, is over time. It's you get something from an initial discussion. You get so much more when there is time to think about what was said, what you've said. Maybe do a little bit more research before you come back. That depth of discussion is important, because for some people, they are not going to be comfortable until they've had their say, until they've been part of a conversation. It's not just something they're going to pick up because it's easy and it's put in front of them. So the work of the citizens panel is very much informing, very much what XR for Europe does. And we've already organized in the past and recently for the industry, because going back to the point, a report like that, it's still very important that it finds the widest possible audience for it, because there are those who are following what the different instruments of the Commission are doing. But that, and so the projects definitely know. XR for Human and Openverse, they're following it, they're very informed by it. But when we engage with stakeholders through the projects, this is an example of something that we need to make sure that they have a chance to see that citizens panel as part of the process of engaging with them, because it's unfair to them that the project is informed, but the industry stakeholders, for whatever reason, because they're so into the day-to-day of surviving in business, that simply they don't see it, or they don't have time to think about what are these recommendations and these suggestions and the motivations. I may not agree with it because the profile is different, but somebody wants it. What does that mean for me? So we do engage with that at XR for Europe specifically, but definitely the projects are informed by it, and part of the stakeholder engagement of the projects is to make sure others are informed by it as widely as possible.
So,
Elena,
would you like?
Yeah. What I also wanted to say is that for us, the citizens panel were a super opportunity also to engage with citizens that we don't usually, that are not part of those conversations. We have the usual stakeholders, and in a way, all the stakeholders are, they are the converted. So often we are preaching to the converted here. We're all speaking about the, importance, the critical importance of digital skills. But then when you go and you speak to citizens, who may not use mobile phones even, how do you talk to them, about what is virtual worlds, about what are digital skills? So I think what is really important in this exercise is that it enlarges, the way you approach the matter. You look at it from different perspectives, and it also allows us as policymakers to really try to be in the shoes of citizens who are looking at different dimensions. And what struck me really, it's the collective wisdom, is that the concerns they came up with over 3 weekends only were pretty much similar to the concerns of the industry. So citizens went immediately, to the heart of the issue. They were really able to pin down what are the challenges in relation to skills, in relation to data, in relation to, to their digital identity. So when you look at the report, it really translates, it reflects, a lot of the challenges that we address, we speak with our usual stakeholders. So in a way, it confirms as well, what we've been working on.
It's actually very strange for citizens and for industry professionals to have similar opinions and similar viewpoints, but it's fascinating really that we can all find the really pressing issues that seem to overlap and seem to affect everyone. Thank you so much. This has been such an interesting conversation, and I'm so sorry that we only have half an hour. Perhaps this is a lesson that we need to bring to the next series of digital skills talks, because it's been such a great delight to talk to you. And also thank you for joining us today. Thank you for sharing your insights. I learned a lot. And I think that this is the case for everyone who joined us today. And we're going to make sure we promote this on social media so that the citizens that were not reached by the citizens panel are reached by us, and maybe we can support the initiatives. And also for XR for Europe, my colleagues are going to post out the relevant links to the chat. We're going to be doing a good social media promotions afterwards. So if you want to dive, before we wrap up, I just want to tell you all to please follow the Digital Skills EU channel on Facebook. My colleague will post all the relevant ads, all the relevant links in the chat. And also we have a learning path on virtual reality, which my colleagues will also put in the chat. And this is entirely on the Digital Skills and Jobs platform. It's tailored, so dive into it, see how you can navigate them yourself, see what perspective it's coming from. And please stay tuned for the next episode of the Digital Skills Talks, which we're going to reveal shortly. And until then, make sure you join the platform community, where we're going to be posting some more things about the Citizens Panel, the European Commission, and also XR for Europe's initiative and the Human Project. So please share your thoughts, because the Digital Skills and Jobs community now, it has more than 12,000 stakeholders. So it's another good opportunity for industries and for citizens to come together and to stay informed and to really dive into such a forward-looking topic that is virtual worlds, but it's somehow so close to us as we become more and more increasingly digitally connected. Thank you so much for joining us today. I will see everybody else in the next episode, and perhaps we'll get 2 of these stars to come and talk to us together again soon. Thank you very much.